G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be covering all the teams that did or did not make it into heats for the final chance of the qualifiers for FNCS. Most notably, we had Savid, Leshy, and Wolfies needing to come top 10 in their final round to qualify for heats. Everything was looking good, and until in the final game, Savid crashed and their team managed to just miss out. They were incredibly upset. Obviously went to Twitter to vent their frustration. They were so upset, as most of the community was. We had some other big teams in different regions who needed to clutch up as well, so I'll be covering just how well they did. And while on the topic of heats, because Epic explained how the heats are going to be seeded, we've now been able to make full conclusive lists of which teams are going to be in which heats. So I want to break those down because already, I mean, it's getting exciting. We have Ronaldo on the timeline going off on a team that he is now jumping on. We have Booger, Bizzle, and Clicks, of course, making it into the same heat as Macwood, Bucky, and Kanata. So I want to look at those lists, break it all down, and get you guys as excited for heats as I am, because some of these look ridiculous. Just quickly before we jump into today's video, guys, today is your last chance to cop any of my merch from my store. It's AussieAntics.com. We're selling hoodies, t-shirts, caps, mouse pads. The store is closing today, so this is your last chance to get some if you want to. Check out the link in the description down below, AussieAntics.com. I guarantee you'll love the stuff. Most notably, coming into this round 4 across all the regions, it was Leshy, Wolfies, and Savid who needed to qualify. They needed to make top 10 in this final round to make it through into heats, because they split up and made a new team, so they couldn't rely on consistency like all the other teams, and they were so close. They ended up coming 12th on 80 points when they needed to come 10th on 103, and like I said, going into their last game, Savid connected, but then he crashed, leaving Leshy and Wolfies to play out as a duo. They just weren't able to do it, and man, the trio took to Twitter. They were not happy. Savid ended up tweeting out, "Crashed in the most important Fortnite match in my life, restarted my game after every round in the 5-minute break, tried to control alt delete," which means like the Switch user bug to get back into the game after you've crashed, and still doesn't fix it. I don't know, bro. I actually think Fortnite is cursed. He said, "I took a risk this FNCS because I'm not down to place top 50 every week and probably not make grands. If we made heats, I'm so sure we would have made grands. Didn't qual because of a game crash. So vibing for Cash Cups the next FNCS. So depressed right now, but effort, man, what can I do?" So really super unfortunate situation. His teammates obviously not too happy. Wolfie's tweeting out, "Didn't qual because of an effing game crash, fully done." And they said, "So no money in finals makes little no brain rats land on us. Then we get over that. Then a game crash in the last game. I don't know what to say. So sick of this game. I hope whoever's in charge at Epic Games gets a grip of their game." Really not happy there. Leshy handled it a little bit better. He was upset, but he got over it pretty quickly, kind of pretty much tweeting out that he made more from doing streams anyway than playing, but things are upsetting. It's not the way you wanted to see the Cinderella run. We already had the massive disappointment of Mongol and Mitro's team just falling short, and then we had our other big EU names that everyone was cheering on, the whole community was getting behind to make top 10, and it going down to a game crash just hurts so much. EU wasn't the only region that had a top tier team needing a big performance in the final week to qualify. On NA East, we had COD Genesis, Voil, and Pandush, who, because they also split as a team, left it down to the last week to get top 10, and they left it down to the last game. Going into game number 6, they were outside the top 10, and they managed to clutch up with a 14 elimination win, which jumped them up into 5th place, easily qualifying them through, and it was one of the most exciting runs I saw a whole weekend. We also, over on OCE, though, had Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks, who, like I talked about, again, because they've reformed as a team, Zora and Jalen dropping price and picking up Squeaks meant they needed to make it inside the top 10 as well. They also left it to the very last game. They ended up getting a 7 elimination second, which jumped them up into 6th place. It was crazy similar. They had good runs to make it. Obviously, as well, we had some big performances in the final rounds of these tournaments. We had Noob, Teo, Chimp, and Tab just absolutely popping off, having an 187-point victory on NA East from a team that almost no one had heard about. I'm not going to put too much stock into it, only because I know it was a qualifying week. I know there was no prize money, but honestly, these teams look like they were trying. These were some of the best teams coming out and trying their best, and Teo, Chimp, and Tab absolutely popped off, getting 2 back-to-back victory royales in a 6-game format. It was super impressive. Again, the other regions had big performances as well, but because there's no money and because a lot of the teams had already qualified that were solid, I don't want to talk about it too much. Now, moving on to the heat list. Now, I need to put a big preface on this. These are the non-official heat lists. This could very much change. The reason why these have been figured out, again, I've been shouting him out like crazy. Kinj Analytics, go check out his Twitter, join his Discord, all that. The information is great. He has taken the list of the series points and the qualified teams the same way Epic would. He's ordered it, and then using the format that they said in the most recent tweet they would use, going A, B, C, D, D, C, B, A, and snaking it down, he's figured out this list. The reason why I put this disclaimer though is if a team gets disqualified, that is going to change this massively. Because of that snaking order, if one team gets disqualified, it pushes everyone up and it changes all of their heats as well. We already saw this happen earlier today in EU. There was a team that was disqualified for leaving the game early and leaving the game when their team was still alive. Again, this wasn't Tusa's team, so don't freak out, but they did get disqualified, which changed the EU list. Kinch has since changed it, but just know that this is not the official list. This very well could change, but as long as no team gets disqualified, it is safe to go off this list. If you want to find them as well, I'll put a link in the description down below to Kinch's Twitter. That's where he's posting all of them. Once the heat lists are fully formalized and Epic puts them out, I'm actually going to be putting together some drop spot maps. I have my graphic artists ready to make some nice drop spot maps of where all the teams are going and exactly what's going on. But right now, while it's unofficial, I did still want to run through the list and point out things that I think look really, really exciting and some of the harder heats. But until it's official, I don't want to go all the way down to making an entire video breaking down where every team's dropping, how they're going to go against this team. But those videos will be coming. I am super excited to make those. Starting off with the NA East heat list, if I had to kind of rank them from hardest to easiest, and again, this could be up for debate. I mean, Heat D is by far the most stacked. This part isn't up for debate, but after that, I would probably say Heat D is the hardest, then Heat A, then Heat C, and then Heat B being the easiest. I mean, again, A, C, and B, you could kind of change the order a little bit, and I would accept it. There's some underrated teams in there, but there's also some big teams, but Heat D is just looking ridiculous. I mean, run this list. I'm just going to read out the first like 8, and you tell me why it's the most insane. Furious Calcan Sebi, Degen Aegis Skittles, Creo Illust Avery, Daymira Reverse, Narwhal Crunchy Zlem, Adrian Archive and Clamps, Os Bully and C9, Cloud Bomboy Subscript, Has Scoped and Tragics, just Zate Saf and Stretch further down the list. It is just, Heat D is looking ridiculous. After that though, there are some big talking points in the other heats though. Heat A, I talked about in the intro. What are the chances that Clicksburger Bizzle would get into the same heat as Kanata, Bucky, and Macwood after all the drama they've had, after all the beef? Macwood always going on Twitter to say he's not stream sniping them despite what everyone says. Every time they play scrims, you always hear Booger's team accusing Kanata's team of doing strange things, so they've made it into the same heat. I'll have to see if that kind of breaks down at all as well. Heat B, I didn't think we were going to have any major drama with. It looked pretty normal. I thought if we were going to have anything, it was going to be Colazo's team versus COD Genesis team at Caddy Corners, but it looks like Ronaldo kind of, you know, went one step further, said he was going to be going Salty Towers, which is where Connor Rio's team wanted to go, and that's where things just blew up on Twitter. Ronaldo has since deleted his tweets. Okas has as well, but I know it created a whole bunch of drama on the timeline at the time, and everyone was just going at each other, trying to figure out how they were going to alpha the drop spot, and of course, it looked like what we're going to be seeing coming into heats. So far in the qualifying weeks, because of the format Epic had, where if you came top 10, you automatically qualified through. We've already talked about all this. It's kind of pushed off a lot of that spawn beef and that spawn drama now to make it so much worse in the heats and finals. Now we're having everyone frustrated trying to claim their drop spots on Twitter before the games even start. So it's not going to be the last time we see the beef kicking off, and there is plenty of other teams around the different regions around the world that are as well. But Ronaldo versus Connor seemed to be the first one that really kind of spiced things up. As far as Heat C, like I said, Heat D is the most stacked. Heat C is going to have some storylines, but before I break down and analyze exactly every single team, I do really want to get that official heat list. At first glance, and again, I'll break these down properly when we get the official list, it looks like EU's not too crazy. It's quite similar to NA. They don't have just one heat that's incredibly stacked. I think it has to go between Heat D and Heat A. Both of them look pretty ridiculous. I mean, just run down the list of Heat D at the top again. You have Andilix's team, Benji Fishy's team, Airwax team, Kinzel. Then you have Thomas HD, Refsguard. Like, these are nuts teams. You go over to Heat A though, you've got Janice's team as well. You've got Aiden's team, you've got Queasy's team, Kiriachi, Tayson's team, team, Vidal. Like, again, I'm skipping some of the names and they're still ridiculous. So I think it has to go to either Heat A or Heat D is by far the hardest. Heat B and C are still really good. This is still EU after all. The games are going to be nuts either way, but I think that's how I see it. As far as like big teams dropping on each other, I haven't looked at it too much because a lot of people on Twitter are throwing out their drop spots. A lot of them are changing them. Some of them aren't going their set normal drop spots. Like I just said in NA, you have Ronaldo's team changing their drop spot for Heat. A lot of teams will do this, even though they have a drop spot they prefer. If there's another tier 1 team that's going that drop spot, they'll usually probably DM each other, figure out what's going on, and then switch to another good POI that isn't going to be contested. But once we get that official list, don't worry, I'll get those drop spots made. As far as the other smaller regions, especially OC and NA West that I usually cover on my channel, there's nothing really massive notable to talk about in those regions. The only thing that I did really want to talk about for OC is the fact that unfortunately for Fresh, his team is by far in the most stacked heat of OCE. They're in Heat B that really does have insane teams. Pretty much, I would say 5 of the 6 teams I have picked to do well in OCE are in Heat B, but they only have to make top 8 at the end of the day, and there are, again, being OCE, a lot of teams that aren't solid whatsoever. So same as NA West and some of the other regions, I really don't think it'll be too hard for any good team with 4 heats to get top 8 in their specific heat. I just wanted to mention Freshers because in a region that doesn't have that many teams like OCE, he got really, really unlucky to get put in Heat B. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed the Heat breakdown. Don't worry, the full detailed videos are coming. I'm so looking forward to those. I just want to get really nice, clean graphics made, and I don't want to do that and make all these storylines and then a team gets disqualified and it just all changes anyway. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Remember, check out the merch store, AussieAntics.com. Grab yourself some. It's going to be your last chance. If you liked today's video, please chuck a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you hadn't. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.